Welcome everyone on Redmond's football report, the second day of March to be exact.
The second one in March. It's the 5th day of March, isn't it?
In real life, but second day in our football reports. You can see we have new shirts. I got this one today, and Daddy got this one today, maybe.
Somebody deserved a reward for surviving both homeschooling and also surviving a first week back at school.
Yeah.
And I thought it'd be good to give him one as well. Mm-hmm. So how's your week been football-wise, Redmond? How's your week been?
Good.
Mm-hmm. This is great TV and radio, you know. You're filling, leave it alone. Mm-hmm. You're filling the airwaves with interesting stuff. So anything more than good?
Well, I've been playing different things. Fergus is sometimes joining us, actually.
Oh, is he joining us this evening?
No, actually. But he's joined us at least once. And he was like...
Whatever it is. So that some people might have some vague notion of what you're talking about. Is he staying this evening with us?
Yes, he is going to have a sleepover, but he's not going to...
The usual football report for you. I could say we have an immense and a mighty one, but I'd also could say that every week. Or I could say it's a piffling and irrelevant one, but I could also say that one every week too. It's what you like, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Will we have a look at the... Well, actually, before we look at the results of the week... Actually, no, we'll look at the results of the week, I think, first. What do you think?
Good.
Okay. Now, where's my little button for results? There we go. So, looking at our results for the week. In the Women's Champions League, I'll go through those results first. Chelsea beat Atletico Madrid 2-0. I believe did they have a penalty or two missed? Either way, good results for Chelsea's women's team. There's a lot of belief in Britain at the moment that one of the Chelsea or Man City can win the Champions League this year. I'll believe it when I see it. I'm still expecting it to be the Germans or the French by quite a long way. Excuse me. The second leg will be coming up, I think, in a week or two's time. Meanwhile, the other one, Champions League game, was Rosengård against St. Pölten. And to my surprise, the 18th ranked league provided a team that can get a 2-2 draw off Rosengård. Rosengård beat somebody 17-1 or 17-0 in a game earlier this season. Please stop meddling with that. Leave it alone. So they had a 17-1 win or a 17-0 win in a one-off game. They have a second leg to try and pull this back, but 2 away goals makes it tricky. Win the away game, and they don't have anything to worry about. But we'll see what happens later. Back up to the usual list. Caracas, having been 0-0 with Universidad Cesar Vallejo, managed to bring the win back to Venezuela over Peru. Venezuela will have 4 teams in the group stages of the Copa Libertadores as they won 2-0 on the night and 2-0 overall. Good result there.
Yep,
Coastal Union shocked everybody from their position of 13th or 14th to be actually 17th, I think it was, to beat Young Africans, pulling out of the relegation places.
Yes.
And giving Young Africans their first defeat of the year.
Yes, it is.
It's a big result there for Coastal Union. It'll hopefully keep them up.
Yes, it will.
But there's quite a few games still to go in Tanzania.
Yes.
Real España and CD Vita played out a scoreless draw, which was not as exciting as the draw I predicted, but it's probably an expectable result.
Draw on the night with a
on the day, depending on, I don't know what time it was in India, but this afternoon in European time, which is what we normally go by, Central European time, they played out a 2-2 draw. Second leg is going to be in Mumbai, so Mumbai have an advantage if there's away goals counting. I don't know if there's away goals counting or not. Juventus popped up with a 3-0 win against Spezia, with Bernardeschi playing the best game I've seen him play this season. So well done there. I'm glad to see Berna is actually showing more of his footballing side. There was a little bit of a cruel joke during the week about him and COVID, but we won't worry about that.
Barcelona and Sevilla.
Again, a cracker of a game. Barcelona needed to they were 2-0 down from the first leg and needed to win 2-0 to get to extra time. They were leading 1-0 for most of the game. It was not a great game, really, and then all of a sudden, boom. Martin Bloody Braithwaite scores in something like the 94th or 5th minute. Or am I getting it wrong? Maybe it was PK. PK, I think. Gerard Piqué scored in the 94th or 5th minute from a corner, I think. And then leave that alone. And then Martin Braithwaite scored the third about, I think it was 4 minutes into injury time that Piqué scored. And then 4 minutes into the second half, Braithwaite scored. And that was it. 3-0 to Barcelona. And finally, Liverpool, in a weird twist of fate, failed to win or draw, but Redmond's not unhappy. Chelsea beat them 1-0 despite Liverpool probably having the better of the game, but such is football and such is Tommy Tuchel running Chelsea.
And that puts me into the semi-final of that.
Yes,
Premier League.
Redmond's doing a last man standing thing at the moment, and somehow he has gotten through to the last four, thanks in no small part to Chelsea beating Liverpool.
And my next guess, everyone, is actually West Ham winning against Leeds United.
That's right. So, next up on the agenda, I suppose we should look at the game of the week. Now, I have to get this up for better viewing. Again, I tend to be biased to the leagues I'm more interested in. I tend to watch more, which means that you're going to hear a lot more German and Italian stuff going here, but you never know. But this one was incredible. Sassuolo playing Napoli on Wednesday. Full score 3-3.
That means there were 6 goals in the full game.
There were. And it had almost everything. It didn't have a sending off, I don't think. Not even that many cards, actually. Only 4 cards total for the game. Maximovic scored an own goal against his own side, Napoli, in the 34th minute. But Napoli equalised in the 38th with Zielinski. Then in the 45th minute, +1 for injury time. Redmond, please sit easy. Stop squirming on every front, if you don't mind. So Berardi scored the go-ahead goal to make it 2-1. Stop touching that. A little bit later on in the second half, in the 72nd minute, Di Lorenzo scored to make it 2-2 to Napoli. To Napoli. They're the away team, so I suppose, yes, to Napoli. So 2-2 at 72nd minute. In the 90th minute, Insigne, who has been very reliable from the penalty spot, scored a penalty, making it 3-2 to Napoli. Berardi had gone off in the 85th minute. They get a penalty in the 90th plus 5th minute. So the 95th minute of the game, if you like, Sassuolo do. And Caputo steps up to make it 3-3. Cracking game. Well worth the watch if you can watch it back on whatever thing you use to watch things.
And you can also watch it on Football Mob.
You can't watch it on Football Mob. You can just get the scores on it and stuff. Sponsor us. Right, with that compelling argument aside, let's have a look at some of our previews for the week. Any other football news you want to give in before we move on, Redmond?
Well, put in your own team. A grown-up team.
Yes, let us know who you'd want to hear about or
and
have
maybe
us talk about.
we can see it in a day or maybe even 2 days. You can even have your team, but it's very unlikely unless you have a team we know.
Yes, if we know who they are and we can find out the details, we will go and look it up and pop in with updates every now and again.
But if we don't know the team, like from India, a weird team from India, we'll flick on Football Mob and...
Well, we can use the internet too. It's not an impossibility. Anyway, sit, hands to yourself. Let's have a look at our previews for the weekend. So we're going to start with Saturday morning, 9:05 Central European Time. Adelaide United are playing Sydney FC in the W League. So we are talking about women's football here right now. Currently, Adelaide are in fourth, while... Yes, Redmond.
You forgot to score for the other team, Jerndma.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be a 0. I'll let them know when we get to that. Thank you for pointing that out, Redmond. I'm glad you interrupted everything I was doing for that thing that isn't relevant for quite a while. Right. Fourth plays first. Adelaide in fourth, Sydney in first. There's an 8-point gap after 9 games played, so it's not insurmountable, but there are only 2 games left, so it is kind of insurmountable. Sorry, 3 games left, so it is kind of insurmountable, or implausibly surmountable. It's surmountable, but really implausibly. Yeah, Sydney have lost 1 game all season. It was the 1 game we predicted as being an easy win for them when they were playing Brisbane Roar, and I think they lost 4-1 at home. So who knows? Maybe they can lose this one too. They have been. I think they've conceded a total of 8 goals in their 9 games so far, which is not impressive. They've held 4 clean sheets out of 9 games, which is pretty decent, I think. Adelaide have been pretty inconsistent, but they did only lose by 2-1 in Sydney 2 weeks ago, because there's a game repeating the one 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks later. The W League and the A League are a little bit funny to follow. With 3 games left, they're unlikely to get to catch up with Sydney, but they could get to second and into playoffs. Basically, they could be in second tomorrow night, depending on Brisbane at Canberra. I think if Canberra win, Canberra in fifth, that'll hold Brisbane back. If Adelaide win, and I can't remember the goal differences, Adelaide could be second tomorrow night. Redmond, what are you thinking? Adelaide against Sydney.
Sydney FC can win 2-0 win, actually.
Well, I'm going to bank on Adelaide making good their excellent play during the week, and Sydney coasting on their 6-point gap to Brisbane. And I'm going to say it's going to be a 1-1 draw. Next, it's time for Iran-Maniacs. Yes, we are doing a massive feature on Iran, the Persian Gulf League this week, football in Iran. There are only 2 games left, including this weekend's games, and every single one of the top 6 play each other during it. The current table please stop. Okay? The current table reads as follows, from first down to 6th. Persepolis 33 points, Sepahan 31, Esteghlal 37, Foolad Esteghlal 27, Foolad 26, Arak Aluminium, or is it Aluminium Arak are 23, Sanat-Naft 23. There's another 2 or 3 teams on 23 points. In theory, down as far as 13th of the 16 teams, any of them can finish in 5th. I know that's not really impressive, but there's only 6 points between 13th and 5th. And from 5th to 1st, there's 10 points. But basically, when you look at it, there's 3 teams that can still win this. It's not looking likely for Esteghlal, but Sepahan and Persepolis, it's between them. My money's on Persepolis, but that's another day's discussion. Of the remaining 3 teams in the league, any of them could fall into the 2 relegation spots. There's very little between them. I think it's maybe second, 13th and 16th, or 14th and 16th. Anyway, on with the reviews or previews. Esteghlal have dropped a good bit lately. They've only won 1 in 5, while Foolad, they haven't lost since they lost to Persepolis back in January, I think it was. So that's an interesting one there. And Esteghlal are the one big team, the only one of the top 3 who are at home for this week. What were you going to say, Redmond? They basically
had not have a loss for 3 months.
Getting on for that, but Esteghlal not doing very well. Sepahan have literally lost just once in 11 games, and I think they've won most of the rest of them. A couple of draws there, and of all the teams they lost to, it was Shakar Kodru, I should say Shakar Kodru. Apologies for pronunciation. Who are pretty weak. I think they might be 13th at the moment. So that's surprising that they would lose to them. Aluminium Arak have won 4 and drawn 3 of their last 7, so they're undefeated for 7 games, and they've been slowly pulling up the table to surprise us all by turning up basically in 5th. Sepahan have similarly done pretty well. They've pulled themselves back up from quite a bit down the way. I remember covering them when they were about 6th, and now currently 2nd, 2 points out off the top. Sanat-Naft haven't won in 5. They've really fallen off the cliff lately, unfortunately. Hopefully they can still finish at least in the top 6. They're currently 6th. Their best ever season was 7th, I think. So fingers crossed they can pull up. The teams above them, I think with the possible exception of Aluminium Arak, have all won the league at this point. So I won't be crying if Foolad or Foolad have a slide off. But either way, Sanat-Naft, you're in trouble. Persepolis, who are playing them, have both the Naft teams to play, if you like. But it's hard to see them not winning it out. I think they're going to beat both the Nafts and finish up on 39 points. Or is it 37 points? 39 points. I Sepahan either. But let's have a look. Redmond, what do you think the scores are? Sanat-Naft against Persepolis first. That's the first game up. That is on Saturday at 12 hours 30 CET.
1-0 to Sanat-Naft.
Ooh, ballsy. I'm going to go 2-0 for Persepolis. At 13 hours Central European time, we have Aluminium Arak against Sepahan. Redmond, what do you think that score is going to be?
1-1.
Okay, and I'm going to go for a 1-0 away win to Sepahan. And then Esteghlal against Foolad. Where do you think that's going to go?
I think it's Foolad.
For Esteghlal to get over their slump just in time to make sure they just barely miss out on Champions League and win 3-0. Right, so let's move on to big table-topping games. We've got 2 more of them to talk about. I think they are the only table-topping games I think we have this week. Please stop doing that. And the first one we're going to talk about is one of our feature games rather than one of the Redmond picks. It's Atletico Madrid against Real Madrid. It's actually not quite table toppers. It's first versus third. Real Madrid are now on the same points as Barcelona on 53, is it? Nothing. Okay. Barcelona are technically second on goal difference. And to be honest, it's gone back and forth so much. Earlier I wrote that I think they're the best play. They look best placed to catch Atletico Madrid. We'll talk about them in a little bit as we normally do. But there are still 13 or 14 games to go. It just feels dreadfully like we're watching Atletico very slow. Could you sit? Please sit. Take your arms off the table. The table cannot bear your full weight. There's 13 or 14 games to go, so anything can happen. It feels like it's an awful shame that Atletico are slowly, imperceptibly losing that massive lead they had. Another team that also has a game in hand over Real Madrid, 5 points behind them, is Sevilla. They'd be a lot closer if they hadn't lost to Barcelona, but then also Real would be second for other reasons in that case. So they have a chance of catching up too. Between it remains to be seen. Atletico haven't beaten Real in La Liga since February 2016.
February 2016.
It's over 5 years since Atletico beat Real in La Liga. There's been plenty of draws. They beat them in the International Champions Cup, I think, that international summer tour thing, 7-3, and they've beaten them in the Champions League. When Atletico beat Real last, Griezmann was still a youngish player for them. He scored the goal in a 1-0 win. That was before Griezmann had been to a Euros, never mind a World Cup. So, Redmond, Atletico Madrid against Real Madrid. What's the score? 1-1 in the Wanda Metropolitana. This is going to be taking place, by the way, on Sunday at 16 hours 15 Central European, i.e. Spanish, time. I'm going to say 1-0 to Atleti. Suarez goal and a very, very snippy game. but I think it's going to be close. The other top of the table game we've got this week is taking place in the Serie A Femminile as Juventus play AC Milan. These are the top two, only 3 points between them. They only them 1-0 back in, I think it's October. Both teams have conceded 7 goals, but Juventus have scored 7 more than them. I think they've scored 35 compared to the 28 that AC have scored. This is a very new AC Milan team. I think it's maybe 2 or maximum 3 years old. They took over the Brescia side that had actually been doing very well in the Serie A Femminile. Made up team in so many ways. Obviously, you hear me banging on about Barbara Girelli, the Italian forward, Gamma in the defence, and so on and so forth. Those are the ones I normally bang on about because they're brilliant. With AC Milan, this is a very good team. This is the the other best team in Italy. And if they win on Saturday, is it Saturday? No, if they win on Sunday in Turin, it might be a different story. But unless it's a crazy big win, the goal difference should keep Juventus top. The Milanese players you want to look out for is Giacinta and Dowie, who have respectively scored 12 and 9 goals up front. Redmond, Juve against AC Milan. What do you think the score is going to be?
3-0 to Juventus.
Okay, I'm going to go for 2-1. There's too many good scores on this field to result in a scoreless draw, or to result with either team not scoring, but you never know. Staying in Turin and going back in time, although forward in time, to Saturday, Juventus play Lazio at 20 hours 45. This is third against sixth. There's 6 points between the two, and Inter are now 10 behind Inter. Inter are now 10 points ahead of Juventus. So it is looking harder to see how that league is going to be won by Juve. But there's still time. Inter have a history, we'll say. Juventus have only beaten Lazio twice in the last 3 seasons, which you'd think is pretty bad considering they won the league in the last 3 seasons. But they're also missing a ton of players at the moment. I think Lazio are missing 3, but nobody major. But Juventus are, again, missing players like Quadrado, like Artur, like Dybala. So even Fabrotta is out suspended, I think. You can leave it alone. It won't do anything to you. Yes. Redmond, what do you think the score is going to be, Juventus against Lazio?
3, Juventus, 1, Lazio.
Okay, I'm going to plumb for a 2-1 win. I think they're going to win. I think Lazio have had the advantage. Please. Have had the advantage. No, Redmond, please. I've asked you repeatedly. Could we stop now? Lazio have had the advantage of a midweek off because they didn't have to play against Torino. Who knows where that's going to end, whether it's going to be given as a walkover or not. But if Juventus can get the strings pulled together, they can really do something. But every time they have the right number of enough players back, they tend to do something. If Morata starts, I fancy Juve to win. Back to Spain, Osasuna against Barcelona. We have 2nd versus 12th. Osasuna are on 28 points, and they're currently 6 points clear of relegation places. So they should be okay this year. Barcelona are now looking comfortably like a Barcelona. Maybe not the Barcelona, but the Barcelona. They should be able to keep 2nd over the weekend fairly comfortably. Messi is now his teammates are more involved in the scoring of goals. He didn't have to score any of the goals in midweek, which is helpful. Their draw against Cadiz was their first La Liga game that they didn't win since their draws in December with Eibar, Valencia, and their defeat at the beginning of December to Cadiz. They haven't lost a La Liga game since the first game in December. So they're looking good. Atletico lost a game, I think, last week. Both of these sides have 6 significant players out, but most concerningly for Barcelona, I think, is the loss of Piqué, who is showing his mettle, his grinta this year, after starting saying, listen, sack me if we need to move on. It's been a very rough year for Barcelona on injuries, so you can't really judge the team based on the injuries, but you can judge the league table, and it's not where Barcelona would expect to be. They wouldn't expect to be 5 points behind anybody at this stage in the season. Redmond, Osasuna, Barcelona. What you thinking?
3 Barcelona, 1 Osasuna.
So an away win for Barcelona. I'm also predicting an away win. I'm going to go with 2-0. It is a Barcelona team. It is not the Barcelona team. I think they will grind through this with the hopes that and just do the perfunctory thing. Martin Braithwaite's going to bloody score again. He just is.
Come on, Martin.
Yes. Right, moving back to Redmond's team, or staying with Redmond's teams, and we're going to see what Liverpool are going to do against Fulham. It is 7th against 18th. Who would have thought that Fulham would be so high, and who would have thought that Liverpool would be so low? There's a 20-point gap between the teams. I think it's 23 for Fulham and 43 for Liverpool. I was looking at the form table. Liverpool are currently on the same form as Sheffield United, the other than Liverpool at the moment. Liverpool have won 1 and lost 4 of their last 5, whereas Southampton drew the game that Liverpool won, if you like. It means that basically at the moment, Liverpool are not in as good a form as Fulham. But there's a big deal between being Fulham and being Liverpool. Liverpool need the win here. Arguably, they were quite unlucky against Chelsea. Maybe you think differently. Either way, they had a lot of the ball and they had some decent chances. Redmond, Liverpool against Fulham. What do you think the score is going to be?
1-1.
1-1, a draw, which would be a step back, but you really need to be beating the Fulhams. Liverpool need Champions League. I'm going to think that it starts to really happen for them. Again, so many injuries. But I'm going to go with 2-0 to Liverpool on games to go. Let's see if we can churn through them in the last 2.5 minutes. Puma play against Cruz Azul on, what day is it happening? It's on Monday morning, Central European time, 4 a.m. Obviously, it's a different time in that part of Mexico. It's 14th place Pumas against first place Cruz Azul. There's 13 points in it after just 9 games. This is not what you're expecting with Pumas. Pumas were basically runners-up in the league. What are you doing? Could you focus? Pumas were runners-up in the league earlier this season, just missing out on top spot to Leon by, I think, 3 points. I could be wrong. They were 3 points ahead of Cruz Azul in 4th, who were... and the team that won it, Leon, are currently 17th out of the 18 in the league. This year, by the way, it's being called the this part of the season is being called the Torneo Guardianes 2021. I can't do the Spanish for that. And what was traditionally the Apertura was the Torneo Guardianes 2020. They've renamed the league to honor the first responders, hence the Guardianes. So for the Clausura, the Guardianes 2021, it's not looking great for Pumas. Now, Cruz Azul there's not much in the top 6. There's very few points. I think it's maybe 4 or 5 points at most. Even Cruz Azul have lost twice already this season. So Pumas don't need to feel intimidated. But then you look at how recently either of them have won. UNAM or Pumas have not won Liga MX with 2011 since they won it last. And they're a big, big, big team. Cruz Azul haven't won it since 1997. Cruz Azul have won the CONCACAF Champions League twice since they won last the Mexican Championship. This too was true of Liverpool, it must be noted. Redmond, Pumas against Cruz Azul. What do you think the score is going to be?
Puma 0. Pumas Cruz Azul.
Cruz Azul?
0.
So 0-0, I think is what it would be in Spanish.
0.
Please correct me, my Spanish is lousy. I reckon that Pumas can score, but I reckon they're going to lose 3-1 to Cruz Azul on Monday morning or Sunday evening in Mexico, I'm presuming.
Gracias.
Next up, we have Ahly against AS Vita Club. The two big CAF Champions League teams in the same